Okay. We live? We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we got a very big issue to talk about with this speaker race. Jim Jordan has lost the first round of Speaker of the House vote nominations today by 20 votes. What's going to happen next? Are the neocons going to stonewall this speaker as well? And what's going to happen? A lot to talk about tonight, plus more discussions about, obviously, some of this Israel news. And Nikki Haley has now called to let in 1 million Palestinian refugees. Reminder, she is a Republican running for president. All right, that's tonight. Stay tuned. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the Vincedao Dow Show. It is October 17th, the year of our Lord, 2023. And I am your host, Vince Dow. All right, folks, a lot to talk about tonight. Mainly headline news. Want to discuss this speaker race. By the way, I know we said we were going to stream it today, and that was the plan. But for some reason, I read last night that the vote would take place at 6 p.m. and then it happens at noon, and I was like, what the heck? So tomorrow, I think they said 11 a.m. or noon is when the second round of votes will happen. We will try to be live for that. Okay, so if you're around tomorrow morning and you want to catch live coverage of the next speaker vote here, feel free to join us. Most likely. I mean, I'll try to make it all work. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin tonight's discussion, everyone be sure to leave a like right now on the stream. As usual, if you would like to support the show, support the content tonight, feel free to do so via the super chats. Let's just get into talking about this a little bit. So, if you've totally missed the news today, Jim Jordan, folks, went through his first round of votes for Speaker of the House, and perhaps unsurprisingly, he lost. Okay? What may come as a surprise to some people is the margin by which he lost. It was 20 Republicans. So 20 Republicans voted for other candidates, and it was a mess with some of them. Some of them voted for Emmer, some voted for McCarthy. Long story short, it's a protest vote, kind of a similar situation to what we saw in January, except this time around, it's not the MAGA, hard right, real conservatives who are protesting against the speaker. It is the neocons, it's the liberal Republicans who come from swing districts, and some who actually don't come from swing districts, but are just a bunch of clowns who are establishment and salty over what happened with McCarthy, and they're just basically out here to say, no, we're just going to keep protesting because why? Now, let me address this as we open this discussion, okay? I know the obvious counter argument from the neocons is going to be, well, why are you surprised that we are opposing Jim Jordan? You guys started this, right? Back in January, you guys are the ones who opposed McCarthy, and also you guys, being the MAGA Republicans in the Congress, are the ones who got rid of McCarthy, vacated the chair there. So why are you surprised? Why are you mad that we are now doing the same thing to you? Well, with that said, I want to make a very fundamental distinction. Here's the difference between us, the people who got rid of McCarthy, because I support that, obviously, and you guys, the people who are now just trying to stonewall Jim Jordan becoming the speaker, is that when the MAGA people opposed Kevin McCarthy, it was not for no reason. It was not over petty beef or drama, okay? Think back to January. They had very specific concerns and demands. They came to the table, they negotiated, and they said, they laid out, these are the reasons why we don't trust McCarthy as speaker. And they even made a deal, if you'll remember, right? They made a deal saying, hey, if you fulfill these demands and this promise and that legislation and all that stuff, then we will make you speaker. Okay, so that is not a petty personal grievance. That is a specific demand. This is what we want. This is what we're negotiating for, and that's why we oppose McCarthy currently. Okay, same thing in terms of vacating the chair. When we vacated the chair, we said, we are doing this because you broke your promises, and it was a policy issue, right? It was nothing about personal drama. It was a policy issue. Kevin McCarthy broke a bunch of promises with regards to budgeting and all this stuff. He goes and makes all these deals with the Democrats, and the Republicans say, hey, that's not what we voted for, getting rid of you. Again, these are specific concerns, demands, promises, all that different stuff. I am yet to hear a single one of these anti-Jim Jordan Republicans actually articulate what they want, right? And that's the fundamental difference, because you're going to hear this talking point. Oh, they're the same. Well, the anti-McCarthy people did that, so why are you mad that we're being anti-Jim Jordan? Because when we were anti-McCarthy, we were laying out the reasons why. We were saying, we demand this. You broke this promise. None of that is coming from the anti-Jordan Republicans. I went and tried to read all these different Twitter accounts and press releases and all this stuff from the people who in Congress who were opposing Jim Jordan today. I'm yet to see a single actual reason why, right? They're not saying I'm opposing Jim Jordan because of this, or if we're going to make Jim Jordan the speaker, it's because I want this or that. It's literally just personal pettiness because you're mad about what happened with McCarthy, okay? So that is the difference. And of course, the irony of this is the faction of the GOP who will say that, oh, it was personally petty, it was dumb, it was whatever for us to get rid of McCarthy. Okay, well, these people are now preventing a smooth transition of power to another Republican, not over real policy concerns, not over, I want this, I disagree with this, I disagree with that, literally just nope, like little children, like nope. And to give you an example of this, let's react here to Congressman Ken Buck. Okay, so this was one of the Republicans who voted against Jim Jordan. And notice the difference, because you've heard Matt Gaetz and all those people talk about, their reasons why they oppose McCarthy. Okay. And you heard specific reasons, right? Matt Gaetz, especially when he was vacating the chair, was very articulate about this is why, this is what we're doing. These are the promises he broke. This is the reason why. He laid it all out, right? This is one of the anti-Jim Jordan Republicans, Ken Buck. Listen to what he has to say. So he went out today and voted for Emmer, who is one of the kind of write-in candidates in this ballot. Listen to what he said about that, all right?
Oh, he did not vote for Congressman Jim Jordan, instead voting for Tom Emmer. Well, I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be Speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst job in America. Mike Rowe would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Okay, so just to underscore that, you voted for somebody because you don't like them.
I voted for somebody because I wasn't going to vote for Jim Jordan.
But you don't know he did.
What? So, do you see what I'm saying here, guys? Do you see the point that I'm making? Because, I get it. You may listen to what I'm saying and think I have my agenda, I have my talking points, whatever it is. Listen to literally what he said there. Okay, so they ask him, do you want Tom Emmer to be the speaker? He says no. He doesn't like Tom Emmer. Okay? So, first and foremost, forget the politics. These people claim that they're serious. These neocons claim that they're principled conservatives, principled Republicans, whatever it is. There's reasons why what they're doing. And they're not personal, by the way. Don't worry, guys. They're not personal. This is not them just being a bunch of children. This anti-Jim Jordan Republican went out and explicitly said the very person he voted as the alternative to Jim Jordan, he does not want to be Speaker of the House. These people are so serious that the candidates they are writing in are literally candidates that, in his own words, they don't want to be speaker. Okay? And honestly, let's listen to this one more time. And when you listen to the second time, listen to the pettiness and childishness in his voice. Look at it on his face. You can tell what this is really about. Okay? Read the body language the second time around. Listen to this again.
Did not vote for Congressman Jim Jordan, instead voting for Tom Emmer. Well, I guess my first question is, do you really want Tom Emmer to be Speaker?
No, I don't. I don't like Tom Emmer. I figured this would be the worst job in America. Mike Rowe would not want to do this for his TV show. This is a terrible job.
Okay, so just to underscore that, you voted for somebody because you don't like them.
I voted for somebody because I wasn't going to vote for Jim Jordan.
But you don't.
This is the response of a 3-year-old, okay? Jimmy, no more video games. No, you can't come inside. No, No, I don't want to come in. No, no. Indisputably, that is literally what this is. Okay? And these people claim to be serious. They claim to have legitimate grievances. No, they don't have legitimate grievances. Okay? That's Ken Buck, who voted for Tom Emmer. There's a few different Republicans who voted for Kevin McCarthy, to which I would point out, Kevin McCarthy is behind Jim Jordan and voted for Jim Jordan. Okay? And these Republicans, like I think the Jimenez guy from Florida, he tweeted out saying, well, I stand with Kevin McCarthy, so I'm voting for Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy said don't vote for him and said to vote for Jim Jordan. But no, I didn't like that they got rid of McCarthy, so I'm now just going to sit here and stonewall. No, right? With that said, I guess the open question now is what's going to happen. And to tell you the truth, I really don't know. You know, logic suggests that they're eventually going to come to the table. Negotiations are going to happen here. Or so you would think, right? You would think that. But I don't know if I'd be so confident about that. Because at least in January with McCarthy, there was actual demands. Hey, here's our list of demands. They had this manifesto. Can you meet this? Can we come to the middle? Whatever. These people don't have a agenda. They're not making demands. They're not coming to the table the things they want. It's very clear. They're just saying, nope, we're not going to vote for Jim Jordan. No, right? So I have no idea, and I don't know how truthfully, how do you negotiate with that? How do you negotiate with that? Because Jim Jordan can go, or Jim Jordan's people can go to Ken Buck and say, okay, what do you want, Ken? What do you want us to do so that you'll vote for Jim Jordan? When you're dealing with a guy like that, what do you expect him to say? He's just like, no, right? And this is no fault of Jim Jordan, because I think it's a good thing. It's a commendable thing, generally speaking, in a politician. But when it comes to leading a party, when it comes to being Speaker of the House, maybe it is a concern to talk about. I don't know if Jim Jordan is vindicating a prediction I made about this, which is that if we do manage to get a Speaker Jim Jordan at this point, it's gonna, like, if it does happen, because like I said, I think you look at these people, I don't know if they'd be able to negotiate with anything, but if you do manage to negotiate, you know what it's gonna mean, okay? I virtually guarantee you, these neocons are gonna come to the table with their own list of demands in the same way they did in January, saying, whoa, no. And not only is it, and I did predict this, right? Not only are you gonna see probably, they'll do something like, okay, Jim, we'll vote for you, but you have to keep funding Ukraine. But also, I think the way you're going to have to bring a lot of these people over, realistically, if it's possible, is appoint them to all of the, committee positions, right? So Ken Buck, okay, you're going to have to lead this. You can lead this committee if you want, blah, blah, blah. Basically hand over the entire control of the Republican House more or less to the neocons, and Jim Jordan is kind of just there helpless trying to rein in a divided party. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen at this point. I wish I could say I was optimistic. I wish I could say trust the plan. We got this. I mean, 20 Republicans is a lot, but in fairness, with McCarthy, the first vote was 19. Okay, 19 voted against them. So if McCarthy could get through, you would think in theory, Jim Jordan shouldn't have a problem getting through. My concern is first and foremost, these people you're seeing on the screen, these neocons, these anti-Jordan people, are way more irrational and just childish than the McCarthy opposers ever were, first of all. And then second of all, what is that politically going to have to take? I don't know, you know? And it's a tough situation. I kind of feel bad for Jim Jordan, because I virtually guarantee you, if he manages to make a deal to become the speaker, he's going to kind of have to sell his soul in a way, figuratively speaking, right? He's going to have to, you know, find a way to make the neocons happy. And truthfully, I don't know how you do that. So I think the real answer, all right, and this is a long-term solution, is that if you ever want a Republican House that is effective and is what you want, it's going to take more than one Speaker of the House race, okay? Now, having a speaker like Jordan is an upgrade from McCarthy, even if, you know, he's neutered in a way, don't get me wrong. But really, what do you do when half of your party, I mean, think about it. Steve Scalise won the original vote, and I'm not saying there's at least 20 rabid neocons here in the Congress. So the only solution I really see is long term, we need to primary these people. Okay, we need to do a better job of taking out people like Ken Buck from the Republican House delegation and replacing them with real conservatives. The challenge, of course, to that is that it's not the easiest thing, as we saw in 2022 with a lot of these candidates, to run as a true grassroots MAGA conservative. The good news, though, and why I would argue it may be a little bit easier in 2024 than 2022 to win some of these primaries, is that you don't have Kevin McCarthy in the way. One of the big issues with Kevin McCarthy, right, was that when you had a true Trump warrior or whatever trying to run for Congress, he would get involved in that primary and screw them over. Many examples of this. Joe Kent comes to mind as one. J.R. Majewski. There were quite a few of these people. I mean, you can look them up. I'm sure you're vaguely familiar. Anthony Sabatini's another one. Now that he is kind of out of the way and not leading the whole fundraising charge here, it may be a little easier, but it's still not the easiest thing to do in the world. So, you know, I don't know what to say beyond that, other than this is a joke, okay? And by the way, the longer this goes, the bigger a circus it becomes. So if all these neocon Republicans said, whoa, this is a bad look. Look, you're dividing the party. It's a bad look for voters in the country. Well, okay. But if you care so much about the party, you know, GOP this, GOP that, Republicans, then what's the point of what you're doing now? What's the point of what you're doing now? Because if you try to come up with another candidate, it's really not going to happen, very likely. All you're doing now is stonewalling. All you're doing now is making what is in your eyes a bad situation even worse. But like I said, we're dealing with literal children here. And what else can be said other than that? So the second vote is coming around tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I mean, I hope maybe tomorrow we get down to 10 and then 5 and then he's in. But I wouldn't be so confident. I don't know what's going to happen, right? Because I don't know how you negotiate with people like this. And if they do wake up and decide to come to the table with political demands, what do you think those political demands are going to be? Let's be real. We know what they're all going to be, right? Jim Jordan, you can become speaker if you fund Ukraine and keep passing omnibus bills and work with Biden and do everything that Kevin McCarthy did, because we don't want a conservative speaker of the House. Oh, we campaign on fiscal conservatism all the time, but if you dare to stop the omnibus bills and the foreign aid and stuff, no. It's a bunch of crap. Okay, I'm ashamed to be a Republican, quite frankly. All right, this party sucks. Okay. If it didn't matter for primaries, I'd probably register as an independent, and I don't know what to say beyond that. Anyways, I think we got a super chat here. Lord Pepsi for $2 says, should Palestinians stay in Gaza because it's their land? Thank you for the $2, Lord Pepsi. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have an answer to that question. I would say as a practical choice, it's probably smart to leave because, you know, what's going to happen if they stay? You're in a war zone, you know, it's probably the best thing, just personal safety, even if that is your home. If it's getting bombed, you know, it's probably smart to evacuate somewhere else. But, you know, I don't think there's an easy answer to that question, because it's not the easiest thing to leave, right? If you leave, where do you go? Egypt won't take them. The Arab countries won't take them. But I would say if there's a place to evacuate to as a Palestinian, is probably the smart thing to do. You know, but at the same time, in any war zone, there's always people on all sides who say, I'm not leaving this place, it's my home, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, what are you going to do about that? Can you really stop that? You know, I don't know. So I don't really have an easy answer to that question, Lord Pepsi, to tell you the truth. But thank you for the $2 again, folks. If you would like to super chat tonight to support the show, feel free to do so. But let us move on here. Let's take a look. Someone says stop at YouTube. Is YouTube messing with the stream? I didn't see anything. I hate everyone in politics right now, not gonna lie. Yeah, I understand the sentiment. I fully do understand the sentiment. All right, with that said, folks, moving on here. But staying on the same topic, because frankly, I think the central theme on tonight's stream is the Republican Party is just a joke, okay? There's a few good people in it, but let's be real. It's a joke, all right? Let's talk about Nikki Haley. Now, Nikki Haley, if you've heard the news the last few weeks, has been surging in the polls. I don't really know why, to tell you the truth, other than my kind of prediction from the second debate being right, that if she does kind of have a strong showing in the second debate and Ron DeSantis doesn't blow off the roof, which I think is pretty accurate from an analytical perspective at least, I think a lot of the maybe anti-Trump voters who are seeing DeSantis slip are now getting behind Haley. But long story short, I mean, I don't really think anyone who watches this channel is a big-time Nikki Haley supporter, but I figure to the people who think, oh, Vince, she's not that bad, because it's funny. I have been calling this woman a neocon since 2019, okay? Like, she's always been one of my least favorite people in the party, and for a long time, people didn't really believe me. They said, no, she's not that bad. Vince, I heard her give a college campus lecture about capitalism, and that was pretty good, so what's your problem with Nikki Haley? Well, this really sums it up. All right, Justin. Okay, so as you could imagine, there's a pretty big issue countering what's happening in Israel right now with Palestinian refugees, okay? And obviously, my big stance on Palestinian refugees has been we should not allow Palestinian refugees into this country, okay? For the first and foremost, perhaps most practical reason, especially, by the way, Nikki Haley, okay, especially someone like Nikki Haley, who is super duper on the side of Israel in this conflict and is super duper like Hamas are terrorists and Palestinians, all that stuff, right? It should be pretty common sense that if you see all that crap happening over there and you let refugees into this country, who do you think scattered like jacks among that seeming group of, you know, poor, tired, lonely refugees are going to be among the refugees? Okay, this is not a hard question. And by the way, the West has had this entire political debate before. Remember the Syrian refugees back in 2014 and stuff? Okay, you know, Obama let some of them in. It was very controversial. It's a confirmed fact, especially in Europe. This was a big thing in Europe, that a lot of those Syrian refugees committed terrorist attacks and knife crimes and all that stuff. And again, you know, from a practical level, that shouldn't even be controversial. It should be common sense. Hey, especially, again, Nikki Haley's view basically is that Palestine is like full of terrorists. Okay, so then why would you let them into this country? That's the first and foremost practical reason. Secondly, I'd probably make another argument that, you know, even if that were not a factor, where are you going to house these people? Where are you going to put these people? We already have a housing crisis in this country as it is, okay? Americans are struggling with that already. And then if you look at the situation with the border and the migrants, like New York City, Texas, all these different places are literally running out of places to house migrants from all the crap that's pouring over the border, right? So where would you house Palestinian refugees? Even if they are all peace-loving people, which common sense, simple math here would suggest that they're not, right? You have the Hamas leader going out here calling for global jihad, and then you're going to let Palestinian refugees into the country from Gaza? Again, the place, by the way, that the neocons keep telling us is literally like just basically a land full of all irredeemable terrorists. That's kind of the way they talk about all this stuff. So let's let them all into the country? Listen to Nikki Haley. Here she is on Jake Tapper's show explaining why, you know, she's not president of America. She doesn't want to be president of America. And Americans should be forced to suffer the consequences of Palestinian refugees and allowing 1 million of them into the country because, well, let's listen to her explain.
What was your response when you heard what Governor DeSantis said?
So in context, I don't support Ron DeSantis in the primary, but credit to Ron DeSantis. He said, we're not going to allow a single Palestinian refugee into the country. 100% agree. This really should be the stance of every Republican. By the way, I don't think it's something that's very controversial among the American people. I think your average independent, moderate voter honestly feels the same way, right? Especially all the stuff they've seen on TV. Oh, look at all these terrorists slaughtering people. Because that's the narrative that's been pushed on TV. Okay. And of course, there is truth to that. You think your average independent voter in the suburbs wants to let in a bunch of Palestinian refugees? Anyways.
I dealt with this every day for 2 years. And, what I can tell you is you have to realize that whether we're talking about Gazans and Palestinians, all of them you've got half of them at the time that I was there didn't want to be under Hamas's rule. They didn't want to have terrorists overseeing them. They knew that they were living a terrible life because of Hamas. You had the other half that supported Hamas and wanted to be a part of that. We see that with Iran, too. The Iranian people don't.
Okay, pause right there. Don't let her continue. So her math is that half of Gaza supports Hamas and half of Gaza, so they support the terrorists, whatever, and then half of Gaza is anti-Hamas. What part of that is an argument for her position? This is according to her. 1 in 2 people in Gaza are terrorists or terrorist sympathizers. 1 in 2. Okay? So that means if you let in refugees from this region, the math suggests that around 1 in 2 is a potential terrorist. That is the dumbest, that is the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals, right? That's what? That's according to her. I don't know the math. I don't know the Gazan demographics or how they feel, but that's according to her. 1 in 2 people in this region of the world is a terrorist or wants to be a terrorist or supports the terrorists, and let's let in refugees. Of course, you may say, Vince, that's bad faith because, don't you know, Vince, that people, we're gonna vet them. We're gonna vet them. We're gonna figure out who's a terrorist and who's not. Really? How are you gonna do that? How are you gonna do that? Oh, we'll give them a questionnaire. What's the questionnaire gonna say? Question 1. Do you love America? Question 2, are you a terrorist? How do you think they're all going to answer the question? They're going to answer your stupid survey in order to get into the country, as most immigrants do. And refugees and whatever. Oh, we're going to do background checks on all of them. Yeah, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Okay? Because first of all, Gaza, I don't know if it counts as a country, but it's basically, if you want to call it that, it's basically a third world country, right? They don't really have infrastructure or anything there. So what are you going to do? Plus, I don't exactly think Hamas is going to hand over the phone records and the internet history or whatever of every person living in that region to begin with. So don't give me that crap. There is literally no way to accurately vet in any regards who is quote unquote not pro-Hamas refugee and who is, okay? And obviously common sense, Hamas has already called for global jihad. They're going to, it's not a matter of if, they're going to try to send in terrorists amongst those refugees. And again, don't give me the lies. The U.S. has no way to figure out who is and who isn't. And again, I will reiterate this as the secondary point. Even if that were true, I would still ask the question, why is that our obligation? Why is it our responsibility? Because the Arab countries, Egypt and all the Arab countries around the region won't even take them in. Which, first of all, should tell you a lot. If they won't take in the Gazans and the Palestinians, then I wonder why that is. Maybe we should learn something from that. But, if they won't take them in, and by the way, the Arab world are the ones saying we're pro-Palestine, we stand with Palestine, down with Israel, all this stuff. and by the way, culturally, linguistically, are very similar to the Palestinian people themselves, if they will not even take in refugees, where and why does America have that obligation? What are you talking about? And by the way, talk about the resources. Where's America going to put all these people? They're already overrun at the border. Every Republican candidate wants to go out there on every single debate and talk about how the border, Nikki Haley in her sanctimonious, girl boss voice, the border's being overrun. Joe Biden, this. Okay, so we already have this migrant crisis in America. Where do you plan to put these refugees? The answer, of course, is in your neighborhood. Okay? It's in your neighborhood. Oh, but these people are they're causing a population problem, and there's obviously, according to her, 1 and 2 of them are bad people, and now they're in my neighborhood. Well, that's a you problem. That's a you problem. Are you counting on a Republican presidential candidate to care about the American people? Good luck. Besides, a few of them, obviously, but good luck. You mean Nikki Haley should care about you or your neighborhood or the problems you have to deal with? No. How dare you suggest that? How dare you? It's actually sexist of you, okay? If you oppose Nikki Haley's girl boss, the Nikki Haley campaign has made this argument unironically. If you oppose her ridiculous policies to unleash Hamas terrorists, according to her own words, her own math here, her plan to unleash 50% of Hamas terrorists on the American people. If you disagree with that, you're just not compassionate, and you're just sexist, and you just don't want a girl president. I guess that's how it is.
Don't want to be under that Iranian regime. They don't. We saw what happened to Masa Amini. We saw how they treat them. There are so many of these people who want to be free from this terrorist rule. They want to be free from all of that. And America's always been sympathetic to the fact that you can separate civilians from terrorists. And that's what we have to do.
What was your response?
How, though? You notice how they never answered this question? Obama never answered this question either when the Syrian refugees were a thing. Remember that? Remember Donald Trump making a big deal of all that stuff? How do you separate a civilian from a terrorist when it comes to picking refugees to let into the country? A pretty as you've seen from past Islamic terrorist attacks, a pretty central principle there is they kind of go undercover until they're in position, and then they commit the terrorist attack, right? Like, this is kind of how it goes. Am I wrong? Is this not what usually happens? It's just ridiculous. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And that's your Republican Party, by the way. That's your Republican Party. And by the way, let me point this out. That's how a lot of the donor class of the Republican Party feels, okay? I think if you went around and asked, honestly, I'm confident if you asked ordinary Americans, not like on the street, few of them would want to deal with Palestinian refugees. But especially if you did a poll at, let's say, CPAC, how many Republican voters in this country want Palestinian refugees to enter the United States? I don't think any of them, honestly. Even the ones who we disagree with. But this is how your donor class feels, and this, frankly, seems to be how a lot of the Republican field feels. So, with that said, folks, let's move on here to our super chats, because I know we did get a few here. Real Texan Politics for $5 says, the Daily Wire launched a new kids program called Bent Key, and they announced their remake of the show, a remake of Snow White, as a rebuttal against Disney. Your thoughts? I mean, I think it's good that they're doing that, It is kind of funny too. They're making a whole remake of Snow White in contrast to Disney, and basically the big difference is just that Snow White is actually an accurate Snow White, right? It's this Brett Cooper, like a white girl with brown hair. Didn't make me laugh, but no, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think that obviously when you look at the current situation in Hollywood, you got to try to do something to push back against the culture and fight the culture war. Now, a lot of people probably in the beginning will make fun of it because, it can often come off as corny and all that different stuff. But I see it as it has to start somewhere, right? The kind of alternative to conservative cinema and all that different stuff. And so I think any effort to get into the field of entertainment and cultural media from a conservative perspective, I commend it. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to try to do that. And like I said, I know a lot of people are going to come to me saying, no, it's corny, it's cringe, whatever. First of all, we haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. I would hold off on making those comments, but I think the important thing is it needs to start somewhere, right? So I think we're starting the seeds of this now. Who knows? Maybe 10 to 20 years from now, there's a very lucrative, conservative, alternative entertainment industry that rivals Hollywood or whatever. And if that comes true, it would be a good thing. So, you know, I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start. Someone's got to do it. Daily Wire obviously has the money and the funding to do it. So, you know, good for them. Good for them is the way I'd feel. Sam Matson for $5 says, the way to get Jordan as speaker is public pressure. That's how Jordan already won 42 of his original 62 defectors. And this is very true, by the way. This is very true because there's a lot of lesser named congressmen that the phone calls did actually work. So I would say keep up the phone calls. But my concern is that when we get down to, say, for instance, the last 10, right? The last 10 or so, there certainly is a minority of Republicans who don't care about public pressure, right? There's a reason why Liz Cheney did what she did, right? Like she knew she was committing political, counter signal, definitely call your congressman, keep up the public pressure, all this stuff. But, let's obviously hope that there's enough here, because I virtually guarantee you that there still is probably going to be a few that are just incredibly petty about it all. But yeah, thank you for the $5, Sam Madsen. Good to see you. It's been a while. Daedalus, is that how I say your name? Or Daedalus says, why is this 1,000-year blood feud America's concern? Well, however I say your name, I'm going to say Daedalus. Daedalus. That sounds coolest. I'm going to pronounce it like that. I agree with you. That's been my stance on this conflict as well, is that, what's happening obviously is horrible and atrocious. And I mean, it's a gruesome war. But that's also another reason why I don't want to see America dragged into it, And I think there's a very obvious, like I've been talking about, I think there's a very obvious agenda. Maybe not by you, because I get it. There's some people come to me saying, no, when I tweet that I stand with Israel, that's all I mean. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But that's not what the politicians mean. There's a very obvious agenda by the neocons to drag America into this war. Not just into this war, but into war with Iran. And, I'm with you on that. I think that we need to keep America out of this conflict. Frankly, it's a very complicated conflict, and I don't mean that in the sense that, what's happening is nuanced, quote unquote. I mean that more so in the sense that, do you want to get dragged into Middle Eastern geopolitics yet again? Because the last time that has happened, in notable cases in recent American history, it has not gone well. And, I think it's a similar story here. All right, last super chat right here. Zeb Boykin for $5 says, on behalf of South Carolina, we do not claim Nikki Haley. Zeb, what is up with your state, okay? Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Lindsey Graham. South Carolina is a beautiful state, by the way, okay? It's actually on the ground. I mean, I haven't seen that much of it from what I've seen, though. It's like one of my more favorite states. It's a beautiful state, a very underrated place, in my opinion. And it's tarnished by it somehow has a worse congressional delegation than North Carolina. Because you would think South Carolina is the deep red state, North Carolina is the swing state, so you'd think the more conservative Republican Party would be in South Carolina. It's the opposite. North Carolina has a lot of great Republicans. South Carolina, the governor's pretty good. What's his name? McMaster? He's actually pretty good, so I'll forgive that. But the party there is, the political machine there is rotten to the core. It's very sad to see. Okay, Real Texan Politics for $5 says, hot take, we are already in World War III, just the early stages of it. Thank you for the $5, Real Texan Politics. I mean, yeah, there's an argument to be made that a lot of what is happening right now is, you know, end times biblical prophecy playing out. I'm going to say on that front, I think it's possible, you know. It's possible. I don't know. I don't claim to know, and truly no one knows until it happens. But, and on the World War III front, I mean, I obviously, I hope we're all wrong about this, but the writing in many ways is on the wall, right? Because you're just reaching the tipping point where all these wars are starting to break out, and then you would think at some point one of these conflicts is going to end. I hope not, but, you know, someone's going to use a nuke on someone, God forbid, and who knows where we are. So, you know, I definitely hope we're wrong about that. But here we go. We got more super chats. Zeb Boykin for $5 says, Real Texan, Albert Pike would agree with you if Vince wants to read his statements. Thank you for the $5, Zeb Boykin. I've not seen Albert Pike's statements, so I'd have to go check those out. A friendly medic for $5 says, U.S. Embassy compound in Lebanon on fire. It is happening. Thank you for the $5, friendly medic. So, hold on. Let's take a look here. Is that real? Because I saw, as of a couple hours ago, this was 2 hours ago, I did see that these protesters were marching towards the American embassy, and I tweeted out Biden Ghazi because it is kind of Benghazi-esque. Actually, that's exactly what happened in Benghazi. Is it started out as this kind of Islamic anti-American protest, and then it turned into just an attack. But here, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let me see on if it's taken over Twitter yet. Let's see. Is that real? Is that real? Oh, let me just look it up. Actually, U.S. Embassy. Well, let's hope they got people out. Okay, it is real. Here you go. Protesters set fire on the grounds of the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon after the bombing of the Gaza hospital. Well, here we go. Yep. Not going to show this for too long on YouTube because, you know, age restriction and all that stuff, but I mean, I hope everyone's all right. It seems like it was just on the outside, but yeah, it quote unquote, yes, it is happening. It definitely is happening. And if it's anything like the last Democrat president that we've had notably in this country, let's hope that that at least the Americans there are already evacuated. But you know, you may remember what happened the last time this all went down. So, but yeah, that's crazy. So that's breaking news, folks. This happened basically while I was starting the stream. Islamist protesters have set fire to the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, Lebanon. It doesn't seem like they've literally are burning it all down, but definitely some Molotov cocktails and stuff have been lobbed. And this is apparently in response to the alleged Israeli bombing of the hospital in Gaza. To which, you know, I would say, okay, America didn't do that. What do we have to do with that? But then, you know, the issue is, and I've pointed this out, is a lot of times the way the Arab world perceives it is that, well, you know, America and Israel are intertwined because, you know, we are always the ones, you know, helping them out and doing all this stuff. So, you hate to see it. Hope everyone's all right. Hope everyone's all right. All right. And I hope we don't have another Benghazi about to go down. But we saw what happened last time. And if you've seen the movie 13 Hours, then you kind of know the story there. But anyways, let's take a look here. Zeb Boykin for $5 says, we also have Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham. Yes, very corrupt. Well, I think part of the issue is that there's a... Oh, this one. I think part of the issue is that there's a political machine in the South Carolina GOP. And it's when I think that's part of the see, North Carolina, because it's a swing state and it goes back and forth, there's not a GOP that's been there for several decades where it's just a continuity of leadership, right? So because it keeps changing hands, the grassroots has an easier time getting in. But yeah, it's true. The South Carolina Republican delegation, certainly not much to write home about. Sam Matson for $5 says, how many Republicans would probably support reinstating the draft? Thank you for $5, Sam Matson. I have no idea how many, but I guarantee you Lindsey Graham is one of them. Okay? You hear all the crazy ridiculousness he has said? I guarantee you Lindsey Graham would support reinstating the draft, because he would be like, we need... And keep this in mind. And this is what infuriates me the most about his war hawkishness, is that Lindsey Graham has no children. He has no children. He has no family. He's never been married. By the way, I wonder why that is. Okay, I really wonder why that. I really wonder why Lindsey Graham of South Carolina has never been married, never been seen with a girlfriend, never had kids. Wonder what's going on there. Anyways, to quote a certain Republican presidential candidate in a semi-ironic but also semi-serious way, he literally is the definition of a listless vessel, right? He has no roots in this country. He has no roots. He has nothing in this country that he cares about other than himself, okay? And so when you look at someone like that, it really shouldn't be a surprise that the one Republican in the Senate, not the only one, but one of the notable Republicans in the Senate who is not married, has no kids, no family, no roots in this country, etc., is the one most obsessed with sending your American children to die in conflicts in the Middle East. And frankly, I would not be surprised at all if he supported bringing back the draft. If anyone's going to do it, it's certainly him. But thank you for the $5, Sam Matson. I appreciate it. And yeah, screw Lindsey Graham. Okay, Real Texan Politics for $5 says, regardless of who's responsible for the bombing of the Gaza hospital, the domino effects are not going to be pretty. Thank you for the $5, Real Texan Politics. And I actually wanted to talk a little bit about that, but it seems to me maybe this embassy story may be the number one thing in the news cycle right now. But let's see. Trying to take a look here. All right, let's see. So this is a report from Colin Rugg saying chaos erupts across the Middle East as explosion kills hundreds at a Gaza hospital, right? Beirut, Lebanon. Pro-Palestinian protesters have swarmed the U.S. embassy, reports of tear gas and fires. So, I mean, let's obviously hope it ends there. But if you know what happened with Benghazi, you know, there was protests outside of the... I don't think it was an embassy. I think basically just firing rockets at the U.S. embassy or consulate or whatever it was. Oh, are we back? Is the stream back? Okay. Anyways, but you have that going on in Lebanon. By the way, I was not super versed on this because I was not alive, but keep in mind, in 1983, you also had the incident where I think it was 200 Marines or something were killed in a similar crisis over in Lebanon. So, you know, 2023, 30-year anniversary. Actually, no, sorry, 40-year anniversary. I can't do math. Something to think about there. Not good. Hate to see it. Istanbul, Turkey. Protesters have breached the Israeli consulate. In Iran, President Raisi threatens the flames of U.S.-Israeli bombs will soon consume Israel. So Iran definitely, you know, trying to get involved here. Amman, Jordan. Israeli embassy reportedly stormed by a mob. Tehran, Iran. Massive crowd forms outside the British embassy. Baghdad, reports of massive protests in the streets. That said, folks, I would say to my American audience, and obviously everywhere though, but especially to my American audience, be careful in the next week. Definitely be careful in the next week, because if they're kind of rising up across the Middle East, you know, trying to push the jihad here, I'd be careful as well. But yeah, that's the current news going on right now. This is the situation. Basically, there's massive Islamic protests across the Middle East. Not protests, riots basically across the Middle East. And I'm sure they will be deemed mostly peaceful protesters any day now. But all right, let's take a look here. Real Texan for $5. Oh wait, here we go. Let's see. Okay, Zeb Boykin for $5 says Lauren Witzke recently just came out with a male stripper outing Lindsey Graham and giving away why they call him the Ladybug. Thank you for the $5, Zeb Boykin. And I'm not surprised. Not I've kind of hinted at this for a long time. Okay, because this is something I've heard extensively in DC, and honestly is also just common sense. Again, folks, why is Lindsey Graham, U.S. Republican senator, not married, doesn't have kids, never had a wife, never had nothing, and also just kind of look at his mannerisms. I mean, I don't think it's unbelievable by any means. This has kind of been an open secret, or an open rumor, whatever you want to call it, for a while now. And, well, I don't know how true that story is, but it's something to think about. I would say it's not implausible. It's not implausible. But here we go. Real Texan for $5 says, Abe Homine is running for Arizona 8 now that Debbie Lesko is retiring. Well, we certainly love to see it. Abe Homine is a great candidate, and I think he would make a great congressman. So we love to see it. I think that's what we need to do, by the way. I think Blake Masters, if he doesn't try to run for Senate again, at least get in Congress, kind of build up your political credibility, and then go for maybe a bigger office. Because we have a lot of great candidates in Arizona that are kind of just got wasted this past cycle. So, I think get into some winnable races, local races, congressional races, and then go from there. Friendly Medic for $5 says, man, I'm getting pretty black-pilled. I don't want to see my friends getting deployed and returning in a body bag or a shell of themselves. Thank you for the $5, Real Texan. I mean, a Friendly Medic, my bad. And yeah, I mean, I share your sentiment. And what can we do? What can we do other than pray for peace, okay? And people wondered why. The moment this war broke out, the first thing I said was I pray for peace. And people said, how can you have peace? Look at this situation. Well, I didn't mean it in the sense that, the war is going to end overnight. I mean it in the sense that I don't want to see this thing escalate, because you see what's happening now, right? They're trying to drag America into this from a lot of different sides. Britain as well, right? The British embassy. And this is something that should be avoided at all costs. I feel the same way. I don't want to see kids my age getting deployed. I don't want to see them returning in a body bag. You see, by the way, okay, if you want to talk about the kind of atrocity videos you're seeing all over the internet, there's a lot of misinformation, obviously, but there's a lot of truth to the videos you're seeing. It goes to show that's war. Okay, war is gruesome. War is brutal. It's not sunshine and rainbows. It really isn't. Which is why I don't want to see American kids get caught up in that nonsense, right? And this is true. This is exactly how I feel. All right, with that said, I do think we have time here to talk a little bit about this. I mean, obviously, it is relevant. This is kind of the incident that's sparking this Islamic uprising across the Middle East, even more so than what happened on October 7th. But let me take a sip of water really quickly here. Okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard about this story by now. But earlier today, the news reported that Israel had bombed like a children's hospital, or it might have just been a regular hospital in Gaza or something like that. And this was the story being ran everywhere. Now, a couple hours later, the IDF came out and said that it was actually a Hamas rocket that took out the hospital. Then they shared a video that people said, I think, was an old video. And then the IDF or whatever deleted that off of Twitter. but they're still claiming that it was Hamas who did it. This all kind of goes to demonstrate a point I've been trying to make about this since the beginning, which is that we need to be very careful about, as Americans, we need to be very careful about falling into a lot of the atrocity propaganda and emotional propaganda being thrown in our faces all the time, right? Because my verdict on this is, honestly, we don't know. And I think that's a fair verdict. We don't know who actually blew up the hospital in Gaza. I'm not saying one side of it is right or wrong about it, because I don't know. I don't have the means to verify it, okay? Much like the Russia-Ukraine thing, it's really hard to know what's actually happening in any regard. So I'm not here to point fingers or accuse anyone or say one side's right or wrong or innocent or guilty, whatever. But I think it is to say, and this is a big reason why you look at the way you go on my Twitter timeline with this war. I've not really retweeted any videos from either side that claim, oh, look, the Israelis did this to civilians or the Hamas did that, because it's very hard to tell what's true and what's not. And I think that's why we need to be careful about jumping on stories on both sides, obviously, right? Because the Palestinian side says, look at this, and then the Israeli side says, look at that. Both sides have had stories that have been debunked, and then some of them probably have been true. I'm not saying that, by the way, there isn't truth to what's happening. But I think the central conclusion to be reached really should be, and I said this, right? Today, both sides are blaming each other for this hospital bombing. I said, what's true? I don't know, but I do know that war is gruesome. And really, that's just the truth. That's just the truth. I don't have much more to say about it than that. Because, you'll see these videos of Gaza being bombed, for instance. I'll talk about kind of the pro-Palestinian side and what they say here for a second. You'll see these videos of Gaza being bombed. And they'll point, oh, look, they're leveling the place. Children are dying, blah, blah, blah. All those things are true. But it's a really difficult situation, because also that's a reality of warfare, right? When you're at total war, for instance, like World War II, World War II, a lot of civilians died in those bombings. Okay, newsflash, right? This is what happens. This is just the brutal, gruesome reality of warfare, Which is why I look at this conflict as an American. I'm not so inclined to buy into the Twitter videos from either side, because I don't know what's true. I don't know. I don't know what is true and what's not. Did Israel do this? Did the Hamas do? It's genuinely, it's really hard to figure out what's true and what isn't. What I do know is that either way, it goes to show how brutal war is. Because I think nobody denies, the truth is, a hospital got blown up. Whether that's Israel, whether Israel did it accidentally or intentionally, or for whatever other reason, or it's Hamas who did it accidentally or intentionally, the central conclusion to be reached is that this is the reality of war. War sucks. And that's, once again, why I want to keep America out of it. Why it is such a prime agenda for me. Everyone has their agenda in regards to this war. I've been very clear about what my agenda is. I'm not here to hide biases or whatever. No, my agenda is to keep America out of war in the Middle East, out of this war, out of war with Iran, out of any of that stuff. Why? Because, you people on, the kind of both sides of this Twitter fight here can look at this video, but look at this video. I look at both of those videos and say, this situation sucks. It really does. This is just death and carnage. Welcome to warfare. I'm not childish about it. I understand how warfare works, I learned a lot about World War II as a kid. I was very into it, and so I understood kind of how it goes. And so I watch it now, what's happening now, and I'm like, it's very tragic, but to a degree, like, this is just warfare. This is how it goes. But it's also to say this should be the prime reason why you don't want America to be caught in war with the Middle East. So all the people who say, you know, yeah, we need to overthrow Iran, they're a terrorist state. This war, to expand to just other human beings in general from a humanitarian perspective, you want Americans, American kids, you know, my age, to be the victim of that type of crap? And you claim that's the virtuous thing? You claim you're on the side of, you know, moral virtue, and if we're not all signing up to be war hawks like you, we're the ones who are insufficient, we're the ones who don't get it or don't care, or something babies dying. I don't buy that at all. So that's what I have to say about it, okay? Again, I don't know who blew up this hospital. I don't really have much to say about it, because it's the Spider-Man meme. Both sides are pointing at each other. I don't know. What I once again know is that, again, war is brutal. I don't want America in it. I want to keep America out of it. Yes, war is sometimes a necessity, but I am very apprehensive about the willing attitudes here to drag Iran into this, and regime change in Iran, and the things Lindsey Graham is saying. And I think you should feel the same way. Okay? Because whatever side you think you think did this, the reality of war is that, yes, especially with aerial combat, hospitals do get bombed. That is what happens oftentimes, unfortunately, in warfare. That's why I don't want to go to war. That's why I don't want to go to war. It's that simple. All right, folks, with that said, let's see. If there's no updates on the Lebanon front, then we'll just kind of read super chats for a couple minutes here and call it a night. Like I said, tomorrow morning, most likely, we will try to be live for the Jim Jordan speaker vote. I mean, no promises, but probably like 11 a.m. I think is when when the vote is supposed to be. Probably won't be live tomorrow night because Ben Shapiro is coming to speak at my school, and I probably want to do a video with the protesters. I don't know, because I have two options here. I have two options, okay? Because I'm in like the club at school, I have an option to be VIP and go meet Ben Shapiro or whatever. But then part of me wants to really just do this video with the protesters. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'll be occupied with that tomorrow. So probably no stream tomorrow night, but I'll try to do the speaker vote live. And then I'm going out of town after that. So, you know, it's going to be erratic. But we have the stream tonight. Okay. Other housekeeping thing I wanted to announce is that we are legit starting a podcast soon, okay? I know over the summer I was like, we're going to start a podcast, and I have all the equipment for it. Some of you guys have seen the studio because I've done a couple of streams out there. There is something I have to fix, though, because there's a light that broke. But I kind of have a crew together. I think I want to start doing a podcast. We have like a couple right-wing guys to be my co-hosts and stuff. And then, you know, now and this is also part of the reason why I've been trying to have like a more social life at school this year, is I'm trying to make some connections, right? We're going to try to occasionally bring in liberals and stuff. I think if it's still relevant and by next week, I think it would be cool to do like an Israel-Palestine debate. We'll bring in one of the hardcore Israel people, one of the hardcore Palestine people, and, you know, have that discussion. But yeah, that's just a programming announcement. The podcast that we talked about over the summer, and I just have delayed because I just haven't had the time or energy to really put it logistically together. It's happening soon. Okay, so that's the announcement. All right, with that said, let me get to these super chats here. VW Bear for $6. Good to see you. Is that Volkswagen Bear? Volkswagen Bear for $6 says, the only good thing about the draft is that we will see Harry and Chris in the Middle East. Thank you for the $6, VW Bear. Forget the draft. They would enlist, okay? They literally enlist because they just want to fight. They want to fight in the Joe Biden army, okay? And they're gonna say like, I'm in the Biden army. They're march, okay? They marched in their zesty mannerisms, saying they will fight in the Biden army. But this is very true. Thank you for the $6, Volkswagen Bear. Let's see what else we got here. Arnie Hernandez for $2 says, is Vince Dow a neo-Gastonist? Tell you the truth, Arnie, I've never seen the movie. So there's my answer. Vince, you've never seen Beauty and the Beast? What? I actually have not seen a lot of Disney movies. Okay, I'm trying to think. I think I've seen Peter Pan. Because I did not care to watch that stuff when I was little. I thought it was basically, when I was a kid, I thought it was basically for normies. I didn't know the term normie yet, but I just had this idea in my head. That's what all the stupid kids watch. I thought Disney movies were for normies and for girls. Growing up now, maybe I'm pretty vindicated on that. But I've never seen Beauty and the Beast. I've never seen Snow White. I think I saw Peter Pan because they played it in class before. But I've never seen the movie. I've never seen the movie. Omar says finally the after party's going to launch. No, it is. It is. Or we're going to put this together. We're going to put this together, okay? Because I've met a lot of people this semester that might make it easier. Because I met a kid who does his major's like media production, and I'm gonna try to just force him to be the producer. Yes, I said force. You be producer. No, but and then I have a couple candidates for co-hosts, obviously. And I now loosely know a couple of liberals. I wouldn't say we're friends. I just know who they are. Okay, I just know who they are. So we have, I think we have the resources now that the semester's a little bit in to make this a reality. So this is what's gonna happen. The classics aren't bad. I never said they were bad. I'm just saying as a kid I never watched them, and then as a grown up, what are you gonna be, a Disney adult? Oh, do you want to watch Snow White? What's wrong with you? You know, what's wrong with you? Omar for 2 says pitcher mixtape to Shapiro for a record deal. This is true. I'm gonna go up to him and be like, Ben, Daily Wire needs a music industry, and I'll hand him my mixtape on cassette. Okay, on cassette. He's gonna be like, I don't have a cassette player, because no one has that anymore. Be like, come on, man. Let's take a look. Art is art, Vince. Okay, but Disney movies are literally made for children. They're literally made for children to consume. Okay, so maybe when I have kids, they can watch the classic Disney movies, not the new ones with the, you know. But why with my time would I want to sit down and watch a Disney movie made for kids? I don't have a lot of time as it is. Live a very busy life, all right? I got to do college and content and everything at the same time. And then spend 3 hours out of my day or 2, whatever, to sit down and watch a Disney movie made for kids. I don't understand how that's an effective use of my time. I really just don't. I really just don't. You know? But anyways, let's see here. Do you got any more super chats? I'll end the stream at about 9:15. So last call for super chats. Feel free to do so. But let's take a look here. Cassette, bro, that's too modern. Vinyl is the way. You're just a LARPer. Adam, do you even have a vinyl player? Okay. People will say stuff like this, and do you actually own a vinyl player? Because you don't own a vinyl player, then you can't be moralizing or purity spiraling about the type of music, okay? It's called a mixtape. Do you know what a mixtape is? All right? The term comes from the VHS cassette era because it's on a tape, all right? It's not a mixed vinyl. It's a mixed tape. Okay. The point of a mixtape is to be on a cassette by definition. Okay. Just gonna point that out. But anyways, some Disney movies are good even as adults. Well, go watch them then. I don't care to. I don't want to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Like, I don't care. I never appealed to me as a kid. Now, I will say the thing I do watch as an adult is Looney Tunes. Okay, the old Looney Tunes and a little bit of Tom and Jerry. I guess that's my like kid art that I still like as an adult. Like, I'll sit down sometimes and watch that. But first of all, they're about 10 minutes long, so it's efficient. Okay, it's efficient. They actually made that for us. That's how visionary Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry were. They made it even knowing in the future that people in the future would have very short attention spans and wouldn't want to sit down and watch something very long. So they're like, here's these 5 to 10 minute cartoons. Boom, boom, boom. And then that's it. Okay? But I'd much rather watch that and laugh as Yosemite Sam gets eaten by crocodiles than watch Snow White or Beauty and the Beast. Okay? Which, by the way, are movies made for little girls. Okay? They're princess movies. Why would I want to watch a princess movie? I thought watching a princess movie was girly as a little kid. Like, as a little kid, I had secondhand embarrassment. How would I feel as an adult? No, we're watching. I'm not. You guys are not forcing me to watch a Disney movie. Okay, I don't care. I'm not even saying. I never even said they're bad. I'm just saying I don't care. Okay. Sam Matson for $2 says Vince got us into the Vietnam War. You really caught me there. Okay, you really caught me there though. You know, and I'm gonna have to end the stream now that you've exposed this this news. I was actually in the Gulf of Tonkin. Okay, I was actually in there. Adam Oji says, don't blame me. I'm in South Carolina and didn't vote for Lindsey Graham. I tried to primary him. Well, good for you. No, I know there's a lot of good conservatives in South Carolina. It's just there's the problem of the political machine there and the fact that a lot of your kind of normal, average Republican people who are not super plugged into hardcore politics are just too naive to know the difference, you know? So this is the way it is. All right, but that said, folks, let me see. Let me see if there's anyone in the Rumble chat. Is the Rumble thing even live? It is live. We got 2 people watching on Rumble. Let's go. Let's go. We're basically balling. We're basically famous on Rumble at this point. All right, folks, we've got no more super chats. Then I will end the stream here. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Like I said, we'll be live probably tomorrow morning for the speaker vote. And until next time, Alpha Moves only. Leave a like before you go. God bless. Have a very good night and peace.